Yes, there was a time where I watched My Little Pony. In fact, if I could have figured out how to make videos a few years earlier, my channel might have been primarily a pony channel. I had a lot of fun with the critical analysis pony community. Their videos looking deeper into the story and characters of the show was always really interesting, and I always really appreciated the big emphasis of celebrating others in the fandom. Though I suppose I should actually consider myself lucky. My technical stupidity that kept me from figuring out how to make content for years also meant I didn't get to really interact with the nightmare side of the pony community. Nowadays, rather than interesting videos talking about neat background art in episodes, I mostly see videos dissecting the toxic parts of the community that made it a proverbial dumpster fire to deal with, and the honestly fascinating evolution of the fandom and the show itself. Although that dumpster fire did play a part in me deciding to give up on the show, even though I didn't realize it at the time. I stopped watching the show around the 4th or 5th season, the one where Twilight has a big Dragon Ball Z style battle with a demon and destroys her treehouse. What a crazy sentence to say out of context. There was a handful of reasons I gave up on the show at that time. One, I was having a hard time figuring out how to actually watch it legally. I don't like pirating shows, and I bricked my old laptop by doing things like that. I didn't want to tank my new computer the same way just to watch a cartoon about Technicolor horses. Two, I was finding the characters stuck on repeat. I felt like the characters weren't really developing anymore, which was a shame, because the fact that they did feel like they went through growth and development early on was one of the key reasons I liked watching the show in the first place. And three, the fan videos I was watching were getting less and less fun. Everyone seemed angry about something, and after a while I just stopped watching those videos and moved on. But it's been a long time, over 10 years in fact. The first episode aired back in October of 2010, and the series finished off with its 9th season back in 2019. And I got to thinking, I wonder how the story holds up. Going back, now that all of the crazy fanatical pony fans and hype are gone, what do I think about the show now? Well, that's what I'm here to do. Let's take a look back at where this pony madness started and review season 1 of Friendship is Magic. The first season is unique in that the season doesn't end with a big battle or a large villainous threat. Usually they do, but instead here, the first 2 episodes have the main cast fighting their first villain of the series, Nightmare Moon. The story starts with the history of Nightmare Moon, how she became jealous of her sister and was corrupted by darkness, beaten only by the elements of harmony, wielded by her own sister. That story helps introduce us to our first main protagonist, Twilight Sparkle, the nerd pony who doesn't like talking to people and doesn't care about having friends, to an almost intense degree.
Spike! Spike? There you are.
Oh god, I forgot about Spike. Spike is a baby dragon who's basically Twilight's sidekick. He's harmless enough here in season 1. He acts mostly like a little brother character, or a goofy slapstick gag character, depending on the scene. He's not terrible here, but as the seasons go on, I find him worse and worse. I had forgotten how nice this art style actually is. The internet caught on how to replicate this style, and it might make it feel common and basic nowadays, but back in 2010, this was a novelty. It's bouncy and fun, there's a lot of nice little details here and there, especially with background characters. Back then, the way magic looked was so different. It's like a subtle, barely visible glow and a bit of a sparkle effect. That would change to be much more pronounced and obvious, probably because it's just a little too subtle here. It's hard to see the magic in certain shots. Season 1 also was still trying to figure out what exactly it wanted the show to be, so there's a lot of honestly weird faces, stretchy weirdness and poses that they don't really do later on. Anyways, Twilight reads about an old myth that on the 1000th year anniversary of Nightmare Moon's imprisonment, she'll break out and once again try to send the world into eternal darkness. Twilight, who is the apprentice studying under Princess Celestia, a super important, like, Jesus pony in this universe, warns her about this myth. In turn, Celestia tells Twilight to get a life and get out of town and make friends, sending Twilight off to the little nowhere village of Ponyville. Twilight is bummed but loyal and starts helping with the preparations for a big holiday, the Summer Sun Celebration. This is used as an excuse to meet the other main members of the cast: Fluttershy, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, and Pinkie Pie. Each scene highlights a key aspect of their personalities and interests. It's honestly a really smart and fun way to get to know the cast.
Well, she's not doing a very good job, is she?
One thing that always surprised me about the show is the fact that the ponies have, like, real jobs. Most children's media depict characters who are around the same age as their target audience, so it's easier for the audience to understand and empathize with them. A lesser story would have had the ponies all going to school, but no, they're whole-ass adults with jobs and everything. It leads to the interesting development that their aspirations for their futures feel much more tangible than their usual kids show would have had.
What do you want to know?
Absolutely everything.
So we officially meet our main cast, all of which fit an archetypical dynamic. There's the sporty one, the shy one, the earnest but honestly kinda boring one, the uppity one, the smart one, and the hyperactive loud one. Anyways, turns out Twilight isn't just a friendless nerd, she was actually right, and Nightmare Moon returns. She's kidnapped Princess Celestia and once again sends the world into eternal darkness. The second episode has Twilight begrudgingly traveling with the other 5 ponies she's already met, as they all head out to try to save the princess. They learn to actually become friends with each other as they overcome various obstacles along the way. With each challenge they face, each member of the team is able to highlight a particularly special quality about their characters, all of which Twilight realizes equates to the different elements of harmony: generosity, kindness, loyalty, laughter, honesty, and the magic of friendship. That was always something I saw people complaining about, that Twilight's element of harmony is called magic, and they'd be like, I can't be magic in real life, that makes no sense. It's the magic of friendship, guys. That's what magic means, having friends. That's the magical part. It's not like real spell casting or whatever, it's just having friends. It's not that deep.
When I realized that you all are my friends.
Taking a moment to look at the other girls' elements, one thing I've always been impressed with is specifically Applejack and Rarity. I feel like with a lazier version of the story, they would have swapped their elements. The stereotype of a sweet southerner always coming over, offering you food, that feels like a typical choice for generosity. Meanwhile, the snotty upper crust fashionista type, like Rarity, would be easy to stereotype as the always blunt, always speaks her mind, never afraid to tell it like it is character that could represent honesty. The fact that it's the opposite impresses me and makes them both more interesting characters. Anyways, they friendship the fuck out of Nightmare Moon, returning Princess Celestia to them.
You told me it was all an old ponytail.
My dearest, most faithful student, Twilight. You simply must stop reading those dusty old books.
I told you that you needed to make some friends. Nothing more.
So that was a fucking lie.
We then discover Nightmare Moon is actually Celestia's sister, Princess Luna, and the two weirdly reunite. Yo, sis, you gonna apologize for trying to turn the world into eternal nighttime? But you locked me in a prison for 1,000 years. Yeah, so? Apologize for the whole night thing already. I'm Horse Jesus. I'm sorry. That's right, the sunlight is all-powerful. Obey your sunlight overlord! Celestia tells Twilight to stay in Ponyville to continue studying friendship, which is done by having Twilight do a morality wrap-up at the end of every episode, at least for the first few seasons.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
After these first few episodes, the general vibe for the rest of the season isn't nearly as harrowing. While the girls do go on various adventures and have fun thrills of sorts, there's usually more slice of life type of shenanigans for them to overcome. For example, in the 3rd episode, Twilight is given 2 tickets to take one of her friends to the Grand Galloping Gala, an extremely important event that'll be held in the city. Each of her friends wants to go, so Twilight decides if she can't bring them all, she won't take any. Celestia agrees to let Twilight take her whole squad, and the Grand Galloping Gala ends up being the finale of the season. They'll then mention the gala and even spend whole episodes dedicated towards getting ready for the gala, which not only does a good job at building up the hype for the finale of the season, but also plays into the moral lesson of the gala too, where the girls had built it up so much in their minds that when they actually got there, it didn't live up to their expectations. A unique moral lesson, but I liked it. It also had a pretty dope song. The songs in My Little Pony were probably the most well-known aspect of the show, just due to how the internet would memify them or remix them in various ways.
Stitching it together. It needs to be about 20% cooler.
Season 1 songs weren't amazing though. In fact, for a long while, Pinkie Pie was the only character who actually sang. Most of her songs were just short little jingles, but she was the only one to actually sing. It wouldn't be until episode 11, Winter Wrap-Up, where the other main characters would actually participate in singing. 11 episodes! For being a show that's considered a musical, 11 episodes is a long time to wait to hear 5/6 of the main cast actually participating in a song. Even after that though, most of the cast don't get songs to themselves for the season. Winter Wrap-Up and the Grand Galloping Gala are technically ensembles for the whole cast. Rarity and Fluttershy have a few songs each. Friggin' Sweetie Belle got a song all to herself. The Cutie Mark Crusaders get a song, and it's the worst. Technically, it's supposed to be bad on purpose. That was like the point of the episode. But just because it's supposed to be bad, that doesn't make it better, and it takes so long. Oh my god, it is such a long song. I do find it hilarious that in a universe where everyone sings, because this is a musical, Scootaloo canonically sucks at singing, but for the other 10 songs in season 1, it's all just Pinkie Pie. And in my opinion, Pinkie Pie sucks at singing. Her voice is so high-pitched, and her songs are usually just so obnoxious sounding.
You gotta share, you gotta care.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Don't eat with your mouth full.
Getting back to the episodes, Applebuck season is the first and last time we'll ever see Applejack actually have to deal with an interesting issue about herself. And not just dealing with the issues of other members of her friends and family. At least from the seasons I've watched. Who knows, maybe season 7 Applejack might have actually had like a whole introspection arc or something. The problem with Applejack, and why she is often considered the most boring of the main 6, that's mane as in like a horse's mane, do you get it? Is that she just has nothing that she aspires for. Everyone else in the main cast has something they want to attain, or at least struggle to do regularly. Rarity wants to open a boutique in Canterlot. Rainbow wants to join the Wonderbolts. Pinkie is always finding ways to help people, throw parties for them, and works at the bakery. Hot damn, Pinkie's gotta calm down. I forgot how much she does. Applejack has everything she wants. All she wants is to run her farm, and she does so extremely well. She grows tons and tons of apples and sells them and other apple-related products, and then that's it. The only problem I can think of for someone like that to face is the problem of overworking yourself. And that's what this episode does. That's like episode 4. It's so early on in the series. So then after this, she doesn't really have anything to do.
Earth is that pony doing? Whoops.
That is the saddest oops ever. What the hell? After this episode, whenever Applejack does get to be the main focus, it's usually one of two options. Either 1, she's butting heads with Rainbow Dash because they're too similar, both being athletic and competitive, or 2, she's butting heads with Rarity because they're total opposites, one being uptight and classy and the other one being rough around the edges and down to earth. And after several seasons of this same gimmick going on, eventually you sort of just know what to expect whenever you see Applejack taking center stage for an episode.
Don't you use your fancy mathematics to muddy the issue.
A lot of the girls tend to fall into kind of samey pitfalls with their character-specific episodes, especially still here in season 1. Fluttershy always faces the problem of overcoming her shy, quiet demeanor in order to stand up to some sort of problem, and they're always so formulaic. Fluttershy is really quiet and shy. Fluttershy realizes someone or something she cares about is in trouble. Fluttershy overcomes her nerves and stands up to protect or defend them. Every single time. It's so boring. Pinkie Pie's episodes tend to focus on her doing something or handling a problem in a way that's out of the ordinary. Here in season 1, Pinkie Pie is definitely at her worst. The character trope of the hyperactive one that screams all the time and is random was just, it's not good. It has not aged well. It wasn't good at the time either, and it's so extreme and annoying here. She gets better from what I remember, but with these episodes, like Feeling Pinky Keen and Swarm of the Century, I find her more annoying than funny. Also, season 1 has this weird reoccurring theme that Pinkie Pie knows how to solve a problem or situation, but everyone just ignores her for some weird reason. Then at the end, she shows up and saves the day, and they're all like, "Oh, we should have listened to you." This happens like 3 times this season.
But it's Gilda! Are you serious? Ah!
Remember how, in the beginning, I said that the repetition of the show's moral lessons was one of the reasons I stopped watching? Yeah, that had been a problem from the very beginning. But it's not every member of the main cast who gets trapped in repeating the same concepts every episode for this season. Rarity, without a doubt, has the most range with her issues. With the other 3, the dilemmas they faced felt like really easy conclusions to come up with. Of course, the shy one would learn to speak up, etc., etc. Rarity very rarely felt like she was following a typical storyline. In the episode Suited for Success, she offers to make the others dresses for the Grand Galloping Gala, wanting to do something nice and make them happy. But they keep asking for changes and imposing on her, and it ends up being a lot more of a burden on her. And it's a really good episode. It's a smart and unique moral lesson that we don't usually see with cartoons like this. Then in Green Isn't Your Color, she has to learn about handling jealousy. And again, it's smartly done. Most shows would have it be, jealousy is bad and people who are jealous are bad people, but instead it shows how someone can struggle with wanting to support a friend, but also feeling jealous of their friend's success. It's great. Rarity episodes have always been good, especially in season 1, they're the best ones.
Whining! I am not whining. I am complaining. Do you want to hear whining?
Twilight's episodes tend to have the most variety, mostly because she has the limitless potential of magical shenanigans at her disposal, but also because, since she's new in town, she has to play out a lot of stories about learning new things.
Excuse me, I'm new in town, and it gets worse.
In the first season, though, there aren't really a bunch of episodes that focus on just Twilight. Usually, if it's a Twilight episode, it also heavily features the other characters, too. But Twilight is always the one to write the letter about the friendship lesson to Celestia at the end of the episode, which is weird considering she's usually only a supporting character in these moments.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Lather, rinse, repeat.
This is a moral.
There's really only one Spike episode in season 1, and it sucks. Because guess what? All of Spike's episodes always suck. As a sidekick, he's fine, but once he's the focus, it's so annoying. In Owl's Well That Ends Well, Spike becomes super jealous that Twilight gets a new pet owl because he thinks she's trying to replace him. It's dumb. And if we get to it in a few seasons, I'll tell you what the absolute worst episode of the whole show is, and I can tell you right now, it is a Spike episode.
Who? Who? I thought your name was Owlicious. Who? Okay, who? Aloysius.
Rainbow Dash, surprisingly, also gets very few episodes in season 1. She's always with the rest of the group, but only twice is she actually one of the focal characters. Which is weird, because due to her hot-headed, sporty, show-off personality, I think it would be pretty easy to come up with a lot of scenarios for her to deal with, or at least have fun, interesting conflicts to face.
New day and we got a lot of pranking tips.
The episode introduces Gilda, who honestly I hate and I don't care about. But what I really care about is the idea of introducing griffins as characters into the series. Characters who are other creatures other than just ponies, unicorns, or pegasi were always so neat to me. And this isn't the only example. In Dragon Shy, we get to see an adult dragon. In A Dog and Pony Show, we get to meet the Diamond Dogs, which, weirdly, at least from what I saw, them and whatever race they're supposed to be never made any other appearances in the show, which makes them feel so weird and alien. Bridal Gossip introduces one of my favorite examples and also one of my favorite characters ever, Zecora the zebra.
Treasures of the native land where I am from.
So the thing with this episode is the others are weirded out by Zecora because she's different, and then they all get seemingly cursed by her, which all range in severity. I'd say Applejack, Twilight, and Pinkie Pie got the worst of it. Fluttershy's voice just gets deeper.
I don't want to talk about it.
Never better. Say.
Rarity's hair changes, and Rainbow's wings get turned upside down, which really wouldn't be a problem if she didn't insist on trying to fly everywhere. You have legs, you idiot. Your wings are messed up. Just friggin' walk around already, jeez. They learn Zecora did not curse them, and she's not bad just because she's different, and they befriend her. In essence, it's a great lesson to learn, I'd say. Downside. Coming back to this episode, I don't know, it feels a little stereotypy at times, but I'm really not the type of person to have any kind of authority over whether or not this is or isn't good representation. At the very least, they do go out of their way to not only paint Zecora as a good pony and show us that the others were very, very much in the wrong for judging her just because she looks different, but also Zecora is a regularly returning character and gets pretty cool development, especially with Apple Bloom. So I guess that's not too bad, right?
We have a long and winding stampeding trail.
Oh no! Everything, literally everything about this episode is bad. Without a doubt, one of the worst episodes in the whole show. It's not even justifiable, like with Zecora. It's all just stereotypes. This buffalo girl, the main buffalo we follow on this adventure, guess what her name is? What's the most, like, J.K. Rowling level of lazy stereotype name you can think of?
This here's Little Strongheart.
Little Strongheart. And the moral at the end of the episode is so bad. So, the ponies, all of who are dressed like colonial settlers and are also even calling themselves the settler ponies, recently came to this place and wanted the land so they can grow their apple trees. Trees that, honestly, could grow anywhere. Applejack even says so herself in an earlier episode.
They actually live all over Equestria and are busy harvesting their own orchards.
No one forced these ponies to move out here, by the way. There's tons of places to live in Equestria. They decided to move all the way out here, all on their own. And the buffalo, who are the native people of the land, aren't happy. Pretty obviously, since this was all their land, and then the settlers kind of just started planting seeds and claiming it was theirs. And then the moral that they try to go with is compromise and sharing.
Reasonable. You got both the settlers and the buffalo have good reasons to use this land.
No. And you know what's worse? The compromise is that the settlers stay and keep the land, but they carve out a tiny little path for the buffalo to go through. But the buffalo was fine with it because the apple pie tastes good, and they just like the apple pie so much. So it's fine if they don't have their sacred stomping grounds anymore, and they just have a tiny little path, because sometimes Season 1 introduced a lot of key characters that went on to become fan favorites, like I already mentioned with Zecora. Ghostbusters introduces Trixie, a unicorn who uses magic like a magician, and then the others harass her over it.
My. What boasting?
For real, they roll up to her performance, and she starts doing magic tricks, like, as part of the act. And they're all like, ugh, look at her, bragging about her spells, what a bitch. Like, yes, Trixie does gloat about her powers and all, but all magicians gloat. Which one sounds more fun? The amazing magical performer extraordinaire, or the average guy who can do a couple of tricks, but I'm nothing special. And B, it's literally part of her performance. This would be like if someone went to a basketball game and watched a basketball player performing well and get a lot of points, and then they went, God, that player is such a show-off. How you boasting? Like, that's literally what was being advertised. And the fact that they immediately start shitting on Trixie for her boasting, Twilight convinces herself she can't do any spells in front of them, because then they'll think she is also boasting, and then they'll immediately hate her. And then the way they try to best Trixie is by doing the things that they boast about.
If I was you, I'd wanna be me too.
Season 1 has some of the weirdest morals, and that are so ass-backward sometimes, my god. The Cutie Mark Crusaders, a small squad of children ponies consisting of Applejack's little sister, Apple Bloom, Rarity's little sister, Sweetie Belle, and Scootaloo, who idolizes Rainbow Dash. The three girls' main gimmick is that they spend their time trying a million different things to try to get their cutie marks, which are the magical tattoos on the ponies' asses. The way the cutie marks work is they appear after you find out what it is you're passionate about in your their life, which makes looking at some of the random cutie marks on background characters a lot of fun to speculate on. The cutie mark crusaders are pretty hit or miss for me, usually. I think they do the little sibling gimmick better than Spike, and lots of times I think they do have really great moments, especially with their siblings, but also sometimes the let's try a million different things shtick for their episodes can be a little tiring.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Don't be a fool. Stay in school.
Sonic Rainboom introduces the Wonderbolts, specifically Spitfire, who gets way more attention down the line. The more important thing this episode introduces, though, is Cloudsdale. It had already been established since episode 1 that the Pegasi can control the weather by, like, manual labor and stuff, which is fun. It's a very unique way of defining this world, and leads to very interesting moments where the characters have complete control of the weather. But more importantly, at least in terms of the fandom, this is where we first heard of the Rainbow Factory. Now, that might not mean anything to someone who doesn't know about the pony fandom, but back in the day, the Rainbow Factory was a key source of inspiration for a lot of people. Specifically, there was a large part of the fandom that liked taking the show in a horrifying direction with fan art and fanfiction. The Rainbow Factory ended up being one of the more iconic concepts in that regard. The gist of the Rainbow Factory is that the way they make the rainbows is by mulching up ponies and using the colors of their coats and hair and whatever. Usually it's depicted as Rainbow Dash being the one in charge, probably because she already matches the rainbow theme.
I'll stuff you in a barrel and make it dude smooth.
And it's just fascinating that they took this like super minor element from a much larger episode and just went completely ham with the creativity of it in the horror aspect. A lot of the My Little Pony fandom really liked to emphasize the horror, the most famous one probably being Pinkamena, also known by the title of the fanfiction this comes from, Cupcakes, which was inspired when Pinkie Pie is depressed, thinking that her friends don't like her anymore, and kind of goes a little bit crazy. The episode Party of One was a big inspiration for people, and I think the darker fanfiction and fanart things that come from this episode was one of the first big things that brought older people's attention to the show in the first place. Yeah, there were many other reasons that dominoed into people watching the show, but I think the initial interest in seeing dark, gritty renditions of cutesy rainbow horses also was pretty big in capturing people's attention. After all, horror-themed spin-offs and fan content made for cute-looking or childish things has been one of the internet's bread and butter since, like, the dawn of time. You hear about Ben Drowned and it makes you want to look into Majora's Mask more and get the references and understand everything that happens. You see Pinkie Pie wearing a coat of her old friend's skin or hear the song Rainbow Factory, odds are you might want to try to understand what exactly all of this was inspired by. But it wasn't just horror that fueled the pony fandom, far from it. The bronies were making tons and tons and tons of fan content. Fan-made episodes, they would take audio from other fandoms and put it on top of the ponies. People were making up their own characters and making whole webisodes and videos about them, fleshing out random background characters because they reminded them of another franchise or had a funny name or did a funny thing in the background of a single episode. And most notably, the songs. Remixes and even entirely original songs were all over the place. Not gonna lie though, a good portion of the songs would basically just be someone's attempt at EDM and dubstep by using a random pony audio clip as their bass drop.
Have turned into complete jerks.
Nah, perhaps more famous, or at least more highly praised within the fandom, was the fan-made things rather than the actual show proper. The show had a cute, yet easy to draw and easy to customize style. And I kind of mentioned it before, but because of how the show was animated, a lot of people learned how to animate by emulating the show's style too. The show had cool stakes at times, and a lot of fantasy and magical elements. It had dragons, phoenixes, other monsters, and tons of potential. It is a fun world to play around with, even as early as season 1.
I see it, but I don't believe it!
Going back to the very start of the show, it's crazy how humble its beginnings were. You'd never know that this cute, candy-colored horse cartoon would end up being the massive entity it ended up becoming. And it's kind of charming here. Season 1 only wanted to tell a good children's show, and it executes it well. Later seasons really started bending over backwards to cater to the fanbase, sometimes to the detriment of the show itself. It's refreshing seeing this from the perspective of something that wanted to be quality and entertaining, but didn't expect too much of itself. The animation can be super sloppy at times, but also is bright and colorful and pleasing to look at. The jokes are fine, but nothing too amazing. I'd say the biggest detriment, at least for this first season, is that the moral lessons are really heavy-handed and not always portrayed well.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. If at first you don't succeed, blame it on your parents.
I'll touch on it way more if I go into the follow-up seasons, but there is quite a bit of hypocrisy from the show. Trixie is bad for boasting and being a show-off, but a few episodes later, Rarity can't stop showing off her magical pair of butterfly wings. Rarity gets commissions from several high-scale ponies, but each time acts like this is going to be the thing that finally gets her on the map. Applejack overworks herself because it's the season for harvesting apples, but even before and after that episode, we continually see her just harvesting more and more apples.
I give up.
So season 1 truly is just simple origins for the franchise. It wasn't too interested in building up its lore or expanding on the characters too much. They were just fun, bright, colorful characters that are all pretty memorable. Their designs and personalities stand out in their ensemble cast, and it's likely that at least one of the characters will resonate you in some way, whether it's because you empathize with their personality, their hobbies and interests, or even just because you think it's funny if the story had some sort of grimdark twist to it. It had some glaring problems. The songs are all rather samey sounding, and the over-reliance on Pinky for the soundtrack is just a shame. But the show is fun. It's a nice kids show that, especially at the time it came out, was a higher quality compared to a lot of its contemporaries. Going back to season 1 has been fascinating, and I'd love to check out the follow-up seasons too. So if you like this video and want to see more like it, let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.
You want to be a better sister? Apologize for ruining my life. Go on. Apologize.
Oh, I don't believe it. You don't say. Get out of here. I told you that bitch crazy.
Is there anything better than pussy? Yes, a really good book.
She's so cute. I mean, that's what I said to your face, but behind your back. You look so pretty today. Just kidding.
Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Nako, James Dodds, Cool Duck, Andrew, Ramiel, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, G Extreme, Classy Critic, Sunny Shy, Azoth, Great Bar, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Zero to Hero, Isaiah, Scaring Crows, Not All That Evil, Messiah Complex, Jacob, Virus, Ben Sketchbook, Watcher, Omega Fighter, Trash, Wild Pilot, Josh, Swift Cannon, and the Infinity Effect. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you had fun with it. It's crazy going back to ponies, you know? It used to be a big thing for me back in the day, and seeing like where it is now with like modern eyes it's crazy. It's crazy seeing how this was the thing that ended up becoming as big as it ended up becoming. So I hope you had fun with this video. Did you ever watch My Little Pony when it was coming out? Were you ever a brony? Did you ever engage with the fandom? I found out that the fandom was not amazing, and I'm glad I missed out on that. Do you want me to review more seasons of My Little Pony or talk about it in any other way? Leave your comments in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.